Hi, my name's Colin Peevely,
And I'm Josh Alexander.
and this is the Out of Place podcast.
Together, we travel the country to bring you to a new destination with each episode.
From current events to crazy stories, we discuss just about anything and everything.
So follow along with each episode as we continue to be out of place.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Out of Place podcast. Today, we are not out of place because it's less than 40 degrees
it's really
outside. Our doors work properly, though, because it's cold. This is actually the second time we're doing this because we started off with Josh's story. And he said, yeah, this is happening on October 27th. And I was like, isn't it November 3rd?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It was a rumored leak for the launch of the GH6, and it was an article posted by Tech Radar on October 5th. And I saved the article a long time ago, like 2 episodes ago. And I looked back at it last night and I was like, oh, I could talk about this in today's episode. It's November 3rd.
it's November 3rd.
The rumor was
and
fake.
Luckily, I caught on to that because
Yeah, I literally got through the story and Colin said that and I was like, no, you're right. It's impossible.
Yeah, so today is my day to carry.
Yeah, so Colin is carrying the talk. For this episode.
So, my biggest thing that I've got, MacBook Pro. People have got their hands on it. They're looking at it. They're seeing the good and the bad. And I've got some of the good and the bad and some of the ugly on this right now.
Gosh.
And I want your reaction to this as someone who has already, bought and paid. It's
Invested.
on the way.
Hopefully, it may not get
it may not be on the
2023.
way for a while, but it is still on the way eventually.
Oh god.
I want to know how you feel about a lot of this. I'm gonna start with some good.
We're gonna save the bad.
We're gonna
for
start
last.
high
Lovely.
because I feel like the bad might bring it. Actually, no, I'm gonna do it the opposite way
You're gonna
because
go,
the bad's
yeah.
pretty bad. So I'm gonna put up the bad first and give you hope that it gets better. You know?
Okay.
All right.
What's like the worst thing?
Oh, by far the notch. The notch is really bad. So the notch almost like grabs your attention on the 14-inch.
Yeah.
It's that big on the 14-inch. On the 16-inch, the screen is so much bigger, you don't really notice it much.
Okay. I got.
So that is
16,
your good
so
thing. That's
I got.
your
I
good
got that
thing.
going for me. But the notch is just miserable. Disappointment.
So this is
immeasurable.
this is where we go into kind of the section where we were like, Apple's doing really good. There must be something that they mess up. This is the something they messed up.
And what's
They
that?
forgot that their software does not go across the board with a bunch of laptops that have notches. So they've done pretty good with the software, and it is early, so they're gonna fix it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty embarrassing. If you have a bunch of status items, stuff like, battery level indicator,
Yeah.
you have a bunch of those that go all the way to the notch, they
I've
will
heard
go
this.
behind
Yeah,
the
it
notch.
covers it, yeah.
And you will be able to click them behind the notch. Now, here's its one redeeming quality. When you are in an app and it has the menus,
Mm-hmm.
it will not go behind the notch. It'll go to the other side. And actually, when you're in an app, it'll make the mouse fast travel across the notch part.
Okay.
So you can go in between them pretty easily. But to do that successfully, it will hide status items until it has enough room.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. That one seems less annoying.
Yeah. I would definitely say
seems
the
less
notch is
annoying.
the most annoying.
Now
I'm
we're
seeing a lot of
going.
green.
Well, there's a lot of green. I'll stay on the notch for just a second. The full screen. This is kind of my it's not the worst, but it's not the best.
Yeah.
If you're in full screen in an app, instead of having full screen and seeing the notch, it takes the whole screen and puts it below the notch.
Oh, okay.
And then when you scroll up, when you put the mouse up, basically you can see those menu things above that.
Yeah.
So you're losing that much of the screen
Yeah.
when you're in full screen.
But on the 16-inch, you'd think that wouldn't be
It's
so
not
horrible.
bad, but at the same time, it's the full screen.
Yeah.
And it's not full screen.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of funny. So that one might be annoying, but also might not be noticeable because the way that the aspect ratio is it's technically the full aspect ratio below the notch.
Okay.
So it's not the worst. Now we'll go back to some non-notch stuff. We'll come back to the notch again later. But we'll go to some non-notch stuff, and I'll give you the last two bad things that I found. The HDMI and SD slot, both are soldered directly to the board. SD card slot, not as worried about. The HDMI, I'm quite concerned about.
Because something breaks.
Because if you trip over the HDMI slot,
break it.
You might break your whole laptop.
Yikes.
But all of the
MagSafe HDMI next laptop.
all
Here we
of
go.
the USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports are not on the main board. So that's at least a good thing. Now I have some great news
All right.
regarding that last point. The USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports. Would you like to know something great?
Yeah.
This is something actually great. Not even.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
I'm not being
right
sarcastic
now?
right now. Each Thunderbolt port has its own Thunderbolt bus.
Really?
They're all separate.
Wow.
It's like 40 gigabits per port.
That is incredible.
All individual.
Dang.
Yeah. So, extremely fast speeds.
Yeah.
Going through every single port.
That's going to be amazing if you're using like external drives or anything
It's
like
going
that.
to be great for docks.
Yeah.
Docks are going to be powerful. This is going to be the point where docks actually come onto its own thing.
Yeah.
Like, docks have been pretty big with the all Thunderbolt ports Mac
For a long time.
for a while.
Like,
But
we know
that
friends and
the
stuff that
one
had to have
restriction
them.
of them is that like each side was its own bus.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be getting so much. Because you're
gonna have
basically
individuals.
going to be able to getting twice as much dock as you were before.
Yeah.
So that's a win. Another win. A win for you and like
A win for me.
specifically. 16-inch. So you know how you were like talking about I wonder if it's going to be better cooling, right?
Yeah.
You made the right choice, sir.
Yep.
I'm glad you listened to me.
Yes.
The fans are gigantic, sir.
Yeah.
I'm talking the fans are like that.
Yes.
That big. They're huge fans. They're absolutely gigantic. When you look at a picture of the back plate off, it is huge.
See that?
Then that brings me to the back plate.
Yeah, okay.
It's as thin as tinfoil, just about.
Really?
It's bad. When you take it off and you flex it, you can quite literally bend it in half if you wanted to.
Yikes.
Like, it's bad. It's bad.
So what does
like-
that mean for dents and scratches?
Probably really bad.
Case.
Case.
If you get a Mac,
Probably
get
a case. But everything's pretty solid in there.
Yeah.
So let's get to.
I did see that the battery was like 6 individual cells or something.
Oh,
like that.
it's multiple cells, which is good.
Yeah.
Speaking of the battery, another win. The batteries all have pull tabs.
Yeah, I saw that.
They all
I
have pull
actually did
tabs.
see that. Yeah.
You're actually going to be able
they
to
actually
replace the batteries.
And they had like slots to access those
mhm.
pull tabs, which I actually thought was
There's
really nice.
a few pull tabs that are hidden, but you can get to them fairly easily.
Yeah, you just gotta get through the trackpad.
We'll get back to the screen. I'll give you some more good things.
Okay.
Some more good things that aren't the screen. So basically, this is interesting only to people like us, and it's not like super great, but it's interesting.
Okay.
They have a high impedance headphone jack.
Ooh.
So you can actually use like studio grade headphones, and it's not going to be extremely quiet.
Like our Sonys, and they're actually gonna work nice.
The sound quality isn't better, but you can actually get the volume out from it.
Yeah.
So they're actually usable,
that is really nice.
which is good for us because we're planning on using as a portable rig, basically.
yeah. So to have that option is gonna be really nice.
And it does. It's like, I think 30% more volume on a HD 600s.
Yeah.
So that's pretty nice. I would say.
That's really nice.
Other things that are nice, the keyboard.
That is one thing I'm
The
very
keyboard's
excited
pretty
about.
nice. Everyone says it's pretty much the same as the new like M1 MacBook keyboards,
Mhm.
but everybody loves those so far. So
Yeah.
that's good. Another
My
great
personal
thing.
favorite is the 2012 MacBook Pro keyboards.
Honestly, though, they're so great.
Yeah, I loved it so much typing on it.
Here's some other good things under the hood. The speakers on the 16-inch. Quite possibly the best you can get in a laptop.
Really?
Yes. They're actually, like, everyone who reviewed the speakers were like, this sounds like a pretty decent Bluetooth speaker. which is
Wow.
pretty good for a laptop.
Yeah.
And the 14-inch is almost as good, but it doesn't have as great a base.
Yeah, it doesn't have better displacement because you can have larger subs in there, more space to move them around.
The camera's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the notch.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I would rather a worse camera than a notch.
I would rather not have the camera than
honestly
have the notch. If I'm being honest.
If Apple,
I don't do that much like FaceTime or like frontal video. So.
If Apple had no notch, this would be only wins. I just want to point that out. If they had no notch, the notch is the only thing setting them back, really. We've got adaptive refresh.
Yeah.
So, and
I don't know if you've
not only you can set the refresh rate too.
You can?
Yes.
Okay.
On multiple different settings.
That is one thing I was curious about because I don't know. I'll talk about one thing I actually know. I actually do have something to talk about after this, but you continue.
So that's good because everyone was afraid that the adaptive refresh rate was going to be bad for video editing or photo editing.
Yeah.
Other thing is you can turn the HDR off of the screen.
Yeah.
So you can have more accurate colors.
That's awesome.
So that's good.
I have heard that the screen's actually pretty cherry to color correct on, which I am looking forward to.
It looks pretty great. A win. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a win, not just for everybody, but for iFixit. When you flip over your MacBook, when you flip over your MacBook, those screws, you've got 4 screws on the top, 4 screws on the bottom. The top screws all the same length. The bottom screws all the same length.
Oh.
So
instead of the whatever we have, it's like 2, 3.
It's 1, 2, 3, and then all the rest are the same. And you've got to remember which 3 it is.
Yeah, and then if you miss, you just like ruin the computer.
Pretty much.
Fun times.
So that's at least pretty good.
That is good.
It is like the old MacBooks where you have to like pry up clips and then pull out.
Yeah, I did see that.
But
the metal clips.
It's not the worst. I think it actually works better than what we have, which is just laying on there. Because if you don't put all the antenna cables back correctly, you've got to like keep going until it works. So there's that. Let's see, what else good things can I get before the mediocre things? All right, we'll go into like kind of an eh. This is an eh. So this is a thing that some people are wondering about: charging.
Yeah.
You can charge with MagSafe. You can charge with USB-C.
Is it about the fast charging?
Yeah. So if you have both plugged in, which do you think it's going to prefer?
The mind in my mind in Apple should say, it should prefer the MagSafe, obviously. But judging by where this conversation is going, I'm guessing it prefers the Type-C.
Neither.
What?
It prefers the amount of wattage on your charger.
Huh.
So if you have 2 chargers plugged in, whichever has more wattage, it'll automatically default to that.
Okay.
Unless if you basically... Okay, so if you plug the high wattage in, plug the other one in, it'll stay the high wattage. If you plug the low wattage in, it'll go to the low wattage, but then when you plug the high wattage in, go to the high wattage.
Okay.
It does not matter which one is which.
Okay. So
that's interesting.
That is interesting. It's kind of just eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that is a feature.
But I guess it kind of saves you if you, I guess, don't think about it and you accidentally plug something that's charging your laptop in. As long as your MagSafe is plugged in and you've got the high wattage, you're always going to be fast charging.
Yeah,
so
okay.
That's at least good. And it seems like all the 16 inches the 16 inches with your stuff on it comes with the 140 watt adapter.
Yeah.
So
I did see that the 14
at least
inch,
pretty
it was
good.
like you had to pay extra to try.
Yeah, but still got like it was still a pretty high wattage
it's like
adapter.
40 something watts.
No, if you get the 14 inch with it like tricked out, you get like 86.
You
or
do
something.
you get the high wattage one, but I think the base one's really low.
All right, we'll go back to some more green.
Oh.
No notch on the screenshots.
That is nice.
That is very nice. Other thing, no notch on video out.
Also,
so
really
it
nice.
just pretends like the notch isn't there.
Okay.
The software kind of knows it's there. Not super great right now,
just
as we've
cut
talked
off
about.
the bar and display below.
I mean, technically, in the display, it's still displaying to the notch. There's just no pixels.
Okay.
So, there's that. The screen is round.
Yeah.
That sounds like not a big deal, but that is a big deal.
Okay.
Because Windows and Microsoft in general has done terrible with rounded screens.
Yeah.
You can literally hide your mouse. If you go up, it'll think it's like a square screen. Mac does not do that. They actually thought about that one.
Curves around?
When you go up, it'll go like that.
Huh.
It'll just go around. So
there's a lot of fun stuff, like the little things to play with.
Yeah, there's some wins in here for sure. I have a few more things. I have two things that are and one pretty good thing.
Okay.
So an HDMI 2.0.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
It's not the worst, though, because some TVs don't even have 2.1.
Yeah.
And that's the main use case for most, like, HDMI stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at it. We haven't switched over to 2.1 as a big thing.
I agree.
So
just like how USB-A hasn't died out yet.
Yeah, so it's an Maybe not future-proof, but honestly, do you really need it?
Yeah.
Right now,
how are you going to benefit so much more for having 2.0 versus 2? Yeah.
SD card reader is half height like ours.
Yeah.
So
that's okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it may get annoying, but
again, I'm not one of those people that always has an SD in.
Yeah.
I just pretty much drop it, dump it, and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I understand that.
I think this is my last point. I'm kind of going around because I'm trying to make it. I didn't really write these down in order. Just
as you found them.
Yeah, going around. I think this is my last one. I'll double check. Yeah, I think this is my last one. Alrighty, you ready? The MagSafe is extremely shallow.
Yeah, I like looked at some pictures and stuff.
That doesn't sound that sounds like why would you care about that? The reason you care about that is because it's shallow with really high powered magnets, which means if you try to pull it straight out, it's like super hard.
Yeah.
The second you put it at an angle, it comes right out.
Yeah.
So MagSafe actually quite improved. So that is kind of what we wanted to see with MagSafe. We just wanted MagSafe.
We wanted it back. That was
the fact thing. That they actually improved it. Yeah, that's impressive.
That's a big one.
I like that.
So, coming back to, we've just talked about all of this. What is the best feature that has come out with this computer?
Oh,
what is your top? Your
hardware or software?
Let's go.
Or hardware or the chip, because the chip is the best thing, and the performance is actually amazing.
Let's go.
I haven't even gotten into that because I want us to experience that.
Fair enough.
But I think as far as hardware goes,
in terms of what you just researched and what you just looked at, what is the current best quality about the MacBook that you'd say?
I would have to argue that the individual bus on all of the Thunderbolt ports.
So getting 40 gigabits of speed on each individual port versus having two different buses. That is, I would probably say, one of the greatest things.
And the biggest fail by far is the notch.
Yeah.
And a bunch of the good points I have are about how they deal with the notch.
Yeah.
Which, if they didn't have the notch in the first place, I wouldn't even have to bring that up. You know?
The worst thing's the notch.
Yeah.
Fair enough. One thing I did want to talk about, kind of steering away from this a little bit with the little time that we have left. Have you heard about the jelly scrolling on the new iPad mini? Jelly scrolling, you know what it is. Or for viewers at home, I'll explain. Jelly scrolling is when you have a screen, and especially with these new adaptive frame rate or refresh rate for these different screens of these different devices, usually with most previous devices, everything on the screen would scroll as in one. So when you would scroll down the screen, all of the when you scroll down the screen, all of the text would come with it. Jelly scrolling is when two halves of the screen have a different adaptive frame rate, so it scrolls down like this. The iPad mini is having serious issues with that right now.
That is not good. That is not good at all.
They are currently looking to fix it, but it was just one thing I kind of wanted to bring out. So if you're considering buying the new iPad mini, there is going to be an issue with that refresh rate. And there's a whole video talking about that I watched. There was like a big deal about it, but it is getting patched. Obviously, it's just an issue with the refresh rate. But that is just one big issue that
is the problem with being like...
And that's one of the things I kind of noticed when you talked about is you were able to set the refresh rate of your display in the Mac, which I thought is very good because I was afraid that with that adaptive refresh rate, you were going to experience something.
I don't think it's going to be that bad, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it should be that bad.
I think that as far as like computer screens have gone, they've done pretty well. It's really just when you put it on mobile, that's when it gets hard.
Yeah. Also, it's not that noticeable. It's not like a deal breaker. It's if you like slow down the screen, you can obviously see it shifting, and like your eye will catch it a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. And I can't remember if it's your iPad or another iPad that has the same problem, but it's only in horizontal mode. I don't know if it's either the Air or the Pro.
I've not noticed it, so I would say
it's probably the Pro then.
Probably the Pro.
Yeah.
Though I don't really do much scrolling in horizontal. So.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just the other thing I wanted to bring up about
Yeah,
Apple.
so I mean that is kind of the problem with being an early adapter, really.
Yeah.
You get to find out the problems.
Yeah. And the one thing that I was always thinking about with that iPad mini is I know they say the screen real estate's bigger, but those bezels are still like
they're huge.
They're chunky on that.
That is the one thing you can say about the new MacBook Pro. Notch or no notch, the bezels are at least smaller.
Yeah.
And the screen real estate that you get is actually quite impressive with the 16-inch.
Having like some of the largest bezels on a computer. I mean, we both have experience having like half an inch thick bezels. It's going to be kind of eye-opening to see what it's going to look like.
I'll be honest, the biggest win for you has been letting me convince you to get the 16-inch
versus the 14.
Because it's gonna be so much better. Like I've looked at all of like the benefits you get from it. It's only good.
Yeah,
it's only good.
Yeah, so that's why
you get better cooling, better speakers. And maybe that's not a big deal,
notch is less
but it's still a big. The notch is less noticeable. That is the biggest thing.
More screen real estate.
Honestly,
that's a huge one.
I do not care about that as much as the notch is less noticeable.
That notch is gonna kill you. I
think actually that's the best part about the 16-inch.
Is that you can notice the notch a lot less. I have seen like pictures of the 14, and like Apple does a great job hiding it and like their advertisements and stuff. But people like had up windows and like it's noticeable in that 14.
It's quite noticeable.
It's a big deal for that 14-inch. So that is one thing to think about if you are going to buy it.
I think that's part of the reason why they tried to make the screen get as black as possible. Yeah. So when you turn on the laptop, open it up, it turns on.
You don't
see the notch, and then all of a sudden boots up, and you're like,
boom!
Why? Why is it there?
But I mean, we will probably be able to go to the Apple Store and like screw with one if we really want to in like the coming like weeks. But in terms of like when we get our hands on and we're able to do benchmarks, because people are doing benchmarks right now. No one's doing benchmarks with the model that we're going to be receiving because it is like top of the top of the top of the line. So we're going to be able to cross-reference those, and we may actually be able to bring some stats and stuff that people haven't seen before.
Hopefully we'll get this MacBook when they've kind of figured out a few things.
Yeah.
That would be
So
awesome.
We're going to get it, and as soon as we get it down, we're pretty much ready to go. But I definitely think that today's episode is very much a deep dive into like the first week, what you were able to find. So
yeah, so it's been a lot of good and bad. Mostly good though. I'll give them credit. It's mostly good. The notch, if they just didn't have the notch, it would be fine. Like honestly,
they said
that's the only bad thing so far.
And maybe Apple was doing out of spite because they knew everyone wanted the 1080p camera. So like, we'll give you the 1080p camera, but we're putting it in a notch, and everyone was like, no, please.
I think it's honestly just because they wanted that face recognition.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly it.
Anyway.
And I don't know. I think going for face recognition, I'm not a big fan. I would rather just fingerprint.
I agree.
I think it's better. I think it's easier.
I think it's quicker.
I think it's quicker.
Because when I had a 5S, I did it much faster.
Physically, it's not quicker, but to think about it, it is quicker. Like
just boom. In.
Usually, you can open it up and then it opens.
Especially like if you're wearing sunglasses or a mask, it doesn't work ever. Versus just
most of the time,
done.
What do you think we talk about? One more thing, just really quick.
We got 5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes. I'll tell you this in 5 minutes. All right. The Nintendo Switch has come out with a N64 emulator.
It sucks.
It's bad. It's really bad. And it just goes to show that people who worked on one for free just so that they could play games on a computer can do better than Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's quite sad.
Thanks, Nintendo. And you have to pay like, how much money do you have to pay?
Oh, it's like $60.
Yeah. So you're paying $60
a game.
Broken.
And it's broken. And honestly...
Wait.
Bigger fail than the MacBook Pro. Bigger fail than the MacBook Pro, to be honest.
Nintendo versus the notch.
The notch is actually better than their emulator. I'm not even joking. God. Just throw up one clip, and there you go.
I'll put a clip up.
There you go.
Look at
clip.
This. Yeah.
Now you understand what I'm talking about. Now you understand. You get it now.
But yeah, that's pretty much been this episode. It was big MacBook day.
Big MacBook day. We're trying to build up the hype.
Yeah, because once we get it and set it down, we're going to spend a lot of time very much diagnosing it.
Yeah, we are going to do a big time video on it. So we're going to make it an actual YouTube video, not just us sitting down and talking.
Yeah, we're going to make it like a better production piece.
Still probably going to do it on a separate channel. We're figuring that out.
Yeah,
probably today.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we get most of that information. But for this episode of the Out of Place podcast, that will pretty much conclude it. My name's Josh Alexander.
My name's Colin Piefler.
And we will see you next time.